Hello everybody and welcome back to Robert's Reviews. Today we are continuing the Back to the Future trilogy series. I started this 3 weeks ago and I just finished it this morning, and I don't know, I feel like for the most part it kind of diminishes in value. Maybe that's just me, but today we're going to be talking about Back to the Future Part 3. Back to the Future Part 3 was released in 1990. It was written by Bob Gale and directed by Robert Zemeckis. And no spoilers, of course, but this takes place in the Wild Wild West. It's like 1880-something or 1890-something, which is cool, I guess. But I'm not a huge fan of Westerns in general, so I wasn't really excited to watch this one to start with. I've decided to revisit Marty and Doc and all that, but, like, you know, for the most part, I kind of got old really quickly for me. Which, I mean, there's only 3 movies, and, you know, when they were originally released, you know, you had like 2 years for the first one and the second one, and then you had 6 months between the second one and the third one, and I watched them a week apart. Which I think just goes to show how much these have aged, and how not well I think that, particularly this last one, has aged. For some reason, the first one feels more lively and more entertaining, and the better special effects somehow of 1985 than in 1990. And Robert Zemeckis in general, I'm usually like iffy on. Like, I love like the Polar Express and all of that. That's great. But like then he did Welcome to Marwen, and I thought that was kind of meh. And I feel like a lot of his movies are kind of hit or miss for me, and the first Back to the Future movie is fantastic. It's a classic. I love it. It's fun. It's a little risque, but it's a lot of fun to watch, and I will watch that one again and again. I do have them on Blu-ray now. I have the 25th anniversary edition, something like that. I don't know, but it's cool. I have it. I probably will not revisit this last one. I just didn't think it was as good as the other two. Even the second one diminishes in value compared to the first one, but not as much so, I think, as this last one has diminished. I do think the second one's better, but that's just because I think it's in a better time period. I think that the one benefit from the third one is that it does have a tighter script, which I complained about in my second video. It did feel tighter. It felt like we knew what was going to happen. I have actually, at the end of the movie, there's this crazy train sequence with Doc, Marty, and Doc's like lady friend, and it was tense. It was a very tense scene. I really enjoyed that scene. It worked very well for what Zemeckis was trying to do, which was build tension. But then immediately afterwards, just all tension was gone, and I feel like at that moment it kind of lost all interest for me, and there was still like 20 minutes left of resolution to do, which I'm not a huge fan of when movies have such long resolutions anyway, but maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm wrong. But I don't know, it just feels like it was kind of really up there, really, really good, and then all of a sudden just like kind of boring for the majority of the end of the sequence of the events there. Wild Wild West has never been my favorite kind of movie anyway, but I think it worked well. I think putting it in the style of Back to the Future was beneficial to the storyline, but not necessarily worth the watch, I think is what I'm trying to say. They could have just not done the third part. In my opinion, they could have just stopped after the first one, made it a little bit more solid of an ending in the first one, and then called it good. And then I think it might have actually been more of a success. Because in this part, I mean, people talk about Back to the Future a lot nowadays. I still do in 2021. But what they don't talk about is that it is a trilogy. Like, I feel like that's interesting because people don't, you know, people realize it, but people don't talk about it as if it was a trilogy. They're like, yeah, Back to the Future's great. They don't say Back to the Future Part 2 and Part 3 are great. And I think the second one does have its pluses. And so does the third one. I think the third one, again, I like the tighter script. The setting actually works for me, even though I don't particularly care for Wild Wild West movies. And the characters are still fun. I do love visiting Marty, and I like how in this third one they did kind of help aid his development by making him more a part of the time travel process, because the first one was like, wow, Doc, like, that's crazy, but now he's like, yeah, we gotta get the flux capacitor to work, and that's cool. I appreciate that. I appreciate all the work that they did with that, because they could have ignored it and made him restart from the beginning, but they didn't, so I appreciate that effort. And again, I think growing up with these characters, you know, even in the 3 weeks, I feel like the character developments have grown, which is good. Even Doc, from the beginning to the end, has gone through a lot of changes, even though in the second one, he's mostly from the past. It's this crazy amount of character development that is hard to keep track of, and I do commend Robert Zemeckis for actually paying attention to that, because I probably wouldn't have been able to, knowing which doc is which, and what time period, and what should he know, what shouldn't he know at this point. It's crazy. And the introduction of Doc's lady friend in this one was really, really good. I think she was really fun. She's a really, really great character. I didn't really care for the bad guy, which I haven't cared for him in any of the 3 movies. It's the same guy, but a different time period. I haven't really cared about that since the very beginning. And this one just felt really annoying. And then they say the same exact lines the entire time. Like, Bob Gale has a very easy job, I think, especially in this third one, of just not having to do a whole lot of work. It's literally just like, okay, let's copy and paste the text, change a couple dates, and then you're good to go for the most part. Is it original? Yeah, there's still some original components, and the time setting does affect the movie, which I appreciate, like being able to notice that the placement of where we want and when we want this video to take place does matter, and I appreciate that knowledge that I have received from this in general. But I gotta say, while I guess it is kind of original, it doesn't feel original because a lot of the lines are almost exactly the same. And again, it does have that kind of charm to it. Like I mentioned in my other 2 videos of Back to the Future, it feels fun. It's a fun movie. And I feel like, again, I'd love to watch this with my dad. He'd have a kick out of it. I'm sure he loves it. And like, I don't know, I feel like it's just kind of fine. I'm really happy there's not a 4th one. I think having a 4th one would drag it out a lot, even if they were to try to remake it, which they will hopefully never try to do, because I can almost guarantee you it will not work with today's audience. But I'm going to go ahead and give Back to the Future Part 3 a B-. Not bad, not unwatchable for sure. I mean, I've seen unwatchable movies. That's not unwatchable. Is it fantastic? No. Will I watch it again? Probably not. If I ever watch Back to the Future again in any capacity, it will probably just be the first one. But let me know what you guys thought about Back to the Future Part 3, or even the whole trilogy, in the comments below. I love looking at those kind of things, and I love having conversations with people about the movies that they watch. So make sure you drop down in the comments below. I should announce this probably. Starting next week, we're going to be doing the Pirates of the Caribbean series. Starting with the first one, I have all, 5 of them? Yeah, I have all 5 of them on Blu-ray now. So I'm going to be watching through those starting next Friday. So next Friday and every Friday following that for 5 Fridays, we're doing Pirates of the Caribbean. So if you're interested in that, make sure you're smashing that subscribe button. Make sure you're sharing with your friends. And as always, keep watching movies and television. Stay educated, and I'll see you guys in the next video.